Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Jeanne. She is a holistic psychotherapist, a coach, and a happiness finder. Welcome, Jeanne. I'm so happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about, before we get into your acronym of FUN and what that means for you and your business, tell us a little bit about where you kind of came from and where you are right now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And, I loved the name of your podcast being the Enlightened Misfit, because I was like, that's me. I have always been a misfit or an outlier. I never was a clique person. I never fit in. I had a history of depression and anxiety and mood stuff, didn't fit in at school or work or family. And I still kind of consider myself an outlier in most things, but I'm just a lot more comfortable with it now at my age. And, I went through a lot of what I was expected to do, in college and graduate school and jobs and, being very serious in my 20s. And I just, sold off everything and moved to a little island off Puerto Rico. And then I ended up in Hawaii. And it was sort of, how I needed to break out of that mold of perfectionism. And, what was expected of me wasn't feeding my soul. And in a meditation many years ago, I thought, what am I good at? And what came to me was playing. I had been a nanny. I worked with kids all the time. I love that. And I thought, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'm a raging perfectionist still. And I thought, how can you make a living at playing? What's the point of that, being good at that? Well, fast forward a few years and jobs and moves across the planet. And I found out there was actually a clinical field called play therapy. And I was like, I'm in. If I get to play with toys and buy toys for a living, I'm in. And so I was studying that one day. I was studying for my clinical training and that. And in the library, this book fell in my lap called Dolphin Assisted Healing. And I had swum with dolphins a few years before that in Hawaii and was just really hooked and really felt a shift, and play is like and dolphins, they seem made for each other. Their dolphins are like the world's master play therapists. And I just felt like, okay, I have to find out more about this. So I got lucky and found a woman who ran a very small dolphin assisted therapy or healing center in Hawaii. And I went back and got to swim with dolphins every day for over a year and spent like the next 25 years swimming with dolphins and whales and working and volunteering and educating people about whales and dolphins, but really felt that power of their healing power. So I was, even though I was still a little left brain skeptical when I went there, I saw the changes in these people and their families, their doctors, the therapists could not explain it. And, with the right situation, the right leaders, spiritual healers, and that healing space, it really created shifts. And I had already been incorporating more nature-based, kind of metaphorical, experiential healing opportunities in my own and clients' lives over the years and moving away from any kind of talk therapy, because I really see that we have all the healing power that we need in our own unconscious. And we're programmed to self-heal. We just need the situation to do that. And it's in the body. So I've done a lot of trauma focused work over the years. And now I know that the emphasis needs to be more on joy, reclaiming that joy and the connection with life, that groundedness and just pure wonder, like children have naturally. That's our essence, is love and play and joy and not caring about what people think or what you're being told is right or wrong and getting those messages of being not good enough. And whales and dolphins seem to produce a real kickstart to the process. So I've just been incorporating more and more of that in my work. And now I do retreats with wild dolphins and whales around the world. And it's just almost impossible to put into words what it's like, because the things people experience are so profound, and it's often really unexpected. We had a woman that came with her friend who was depressed to the Dolphins in Hawaii, and it was her, the friend, who had even the most profound opening, because she was holding so much space for her friend who was depressed, that she ended up having a healing. And so it was just these really unexpected things that happen. I have other stories, but yeah, that's sort of, that's what I try to create this space for. I joke that I'm just a dolphin and whale groupie, and I just want to follow them around the world, and I just want to bring other people to them so they can regenerate this connection with their own joy, and start to have fun and play again. And one thing I find fascinating is when I ask adults, especially, what do you do for fun? I don't ask them what they do, or what they do for work. When I ask them what they do for fun, you get these really sad faces, like they just sort of look off into space, like they can't remember, the
Right.
last time they really played or had fun. And I just, that's like, oh, that's why I'm doing this, because, play and fun really brings you back to your essence. And I joke that I made up that, because I like to play with words, that fun means your fundamental universal need. And it's really true. Even more and more research and experience is teaching us that we need to play throughout the life cycle. Like it's really clear that it's important to our brain and our body, our functioning, especially as we age. It helps with problem solving. It helps with creativity, communication, your mental health, of course, and then your relationships. And there was something that came out about how important it is to daydream, and how that is such a break for the brain, and it creates all this rest in a way in there and play, and it allows your brain to be a lot more creative and do better at problem solving afterwards. So I always incorporate that with I don't call them clients, I call them players, because if I'm a coach, like in sports teams, they call their players, the people they
Right.
work with, players. And I was like, I don't want to call you clients, you're my players. So why should that just be in the sports teams, that they get to have players? I was like, we're
Yeah.
all players, so
I love
I
that.
have them, yeah, I have them daydream, I have them doodling, they have to do some play, some expression, it's all part of the work. And I've done trauma groups and stuff, and it's just can be really heavy. And I find that you need to raise the joy vibration especially while people are holding kind of heavy stuff. Because if you don't do that, it's just a downer, and I just say there's like, I do no drama trauma transformation because
Right.
it's really about balance, creating that balance in life between the heavy stuff that does exist in this world, but there's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of need to experience our joy, and raise that vibration. So, and it helps the animals, it helps our planet, makes people want to take care of it. So to me, it's all part of my commitment, and my mission, to help the earth, help the planet, help the people.
I love that. I just think what you do is just so interesting, especially because I'm like, my mind is like thinking of like, oh, I always take myself back to even like my own, um, I probably should, now that you say players, I'm like, that's actually a good thing. I call usually my clients are like my friends, all my friends. I,
Mhm.
I usually say like friends, but, um, I always tell them because they'll always say to me like that they want to have joy and they want to have fun. And
Mm.
when I ask them, like you said, what does that look like for you?
Mhm.
And they don't know.
They
It's
don't.
like it's happiness. And it's like, what does that look like? You have to know
Mhm.
like what's the intention? You're saying that you want fun. And like you said, I love how you have your acronym of, fun
Mhm.
is like you're confusing the universe because the universe is listening and you're
Mhm.
telling the universe that you want to have fun, but you're not telling them what does it look like for you.
Yeah.
Like, because they're going to start sending you stuff and you're going to be like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, it's like, okay, well, what does she want? It's like intention is really important. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I,
And they'll miss the opportunities for fun. They'll be like, well, I'm afraid of the water.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so big. And I love
Yeah.
the fear. I love the scared people the most because those are the ones that have the biggest transformations. I used to do experiential stuff with like teenage juvenile delinquents, and we would rock climb and scare the crap out of them. And that's where they would have the biggest transformation in their life. It's like, what do you do when you're afraid? How are you going to handle this? How are you going to move through your limiting beliefs, your mistrust,
Right.
all of the fear? And it just, you change, people become really strong when they have faced it. And I've dealt with people who come to these retreats and they're afraid of water. They've had horrible near drowning experiences, and they want to go in with every flotation device on the planet. And I was like, no, you need to get off that.
Yeah.
I got them diving down because they learned to trust their body again, that
Yeah.
their body was not their enemy. And it's that connection, with our spirit and our sense of self and trust and the planet. Like, we're not out to get you. And they
Right.
have just, they glow. I mean, people come, they go back, and this woman I dealt with, she was like, people have asked me where I've been because they can't believe the change and they don't understand, everything that happened. And she was just glowing, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, it's
Yeah. I love that.
remarkable.
So when you say that, now, is this when you're having your like your players like swim with these dolphins and whales? Now, do you meet them before they do this, or do you
Mhm.
just kind of go out? You do. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely help them, identify a clear goal, like you're saying, to focus on during the retreats. And it's not about, I want to swim 14 times. It's about, I had one woman set 4 really big goals, in her life. And after we went to the gray whales where you can pet them and kiss them and hug them in this really special lagoon, it's the only place in the world they do this. And she achieved all of her goals within the next year, and there's just something about facing a sentient giant being who wants to be with you that changes you. It's like this connection. It's sort of like, you belong here, and you're okay. There's a lot of this stories, that come in, and I think there's ultrasonic healing. There's a lot of mysterious things that we just haven't measured yet because we haven't been able
Yeah.
to. And they just are doing things. I had a client once, or player, we were out in the water with several of us. And of course, I had worked with her before. And when we got back out of the water, she was like, yeah, did you hear that sound from the dolphin? None of us heard a thing. It was only her because they
Yeah.
picked her. And she
Yeah.
said, I felt this. I've always had this, knot of anxiety in my chest. And I just felt it go away, like just, and that they worked on her. So they will pick people, and nobody else heard anything. It was only her, so that you can feel sometimes the vibration inside your body or your brain. And so something is happening. Sometimes they target people, sometimes you won't know. And it can be very subtle and happen over time. But yeah, I definitely work with people before, during, and after these trips to see how they can incorporate and integrate what's happening, because there's a lot that goes on at just a really, really subconscious and spiritual level.
Yeah.
And I don't make unreasonable promises. It's always on the terms of the animals, of the dolphins and whales. They either want to be with us or not. These are not like tourist trips. I go to places where we're
I was going to ask
alone.
that. Okay.
Yeah, it's alone. I vet every single place to make sure the dolphins aren't being harassed, and it's really where you can have some space that isn't screaming tourist boats. It just, yeah, it's not that at all. And
Okay.
so I
Yeah,
put
I
a
was going
lot
to
of
ask.
time into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these sometimes, because they are just like any other creature on this planet that,
Yeah.
they have a soul, they have, feelings, emotions. It's just, different. And, they have, and they're probably annoyed too,
Hmm.
like sad,
Yeah.
So it's like they
Yeah.
don't want to be bothered if they want to be bothered, So I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
really important that they
excited. I
choose
want to
it.
try this.
Yeah, it's really important because they're choosing. I was just talking to somebody because I had gone to a place. I won't name it yet because I'm trying to actually change the culture there. But she said, yeah, we used to go out when there was less boats and there was like hundreds of dolphins. And now where we go, the dolphins come and they stay, even though they're being harassed, but only a few dozen, maybe 100 at the most. And I was like, yeah, they're choosing. Like, they pick and choose who's going to go be with the humans. and who want to interact, who want to give
Right.
that generosity. They really feel generous to me. And in the last couple of years, I've been developing animal communication skills, and I've had amazing communications with the animals as well as my own animals and other cetaceans, and gotten these messages that they're choosing to be with us. Some want to, some don't, some can't stand us, or they're taking turns.
Right.
And it's how you approach them. So I teach people how to approach them. I'm writing a book now, it's going to be called Connect and Respect, and to help people learn how to connect, how to draw the dolphins to you, how to interact with them, so that you're respecting them as beings with free will. You're not bothering them, and yet you can really connect deeply. You can know when they're accepting you in their pod. When they're swimming next to me and they're literally this close, I'm in the pod. They have decided to swim with me. And I just sit there. Like, I don't even swim. You can't keep up with them. So you just
Right.
wait for them to come near you, and you just lay there and let them go by you. And it's the most amazing thing, because they are embracing you, quite literally. And, there's other things I do to play with them and be interesting, but I don't need to dive down on top of them. That's one of the worst things you can do. But so it's really
Yeah.
important to me to teach people how to connect in a respectful, open way, that isn't about, oh my God, let me get a selfie. In fact, I really
Yeah.
try to get people to leave their camera on the ship, because it's really distracting. It really takes you out of the present moment.
Yeah.
um, and that's not what they're there for, and so it brings up a lot. I mean, people laugh hysterical, and they all of a sudden like laugh like they haven't laughed before, or they just cry, or they both do both.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really fun to see that. I cry every time, because it
Yeah.
feels like home to me. And they're doing something. There's a vibration level, especially whales. It's really different than dolphins, but it's a vibration that you body will respond to. We can sort of align ourselves with the earth's vibration, and as
Mhm.
we connect with other parts of the natural world, something called earthing, that's really interesting. But we get in alignment again with the earth and these other beings, and that's when we feel better and healing happens. And then there's the sound healing that's going on, especially when you're being scanned by whales and dolphins. And there's just a lot that's happening on different levels that we're not aware of, things we won't even be able to hear that they're doing, at all these different, hertzes and this stuff that we can't detect. And it just, I prefer life to be more healing and more fun. You can do different kinds of work and connection with other kinds of therapeutic animals. I've done horses, I've done my own dogs,
Yeah.
cats, and bunnies, all of that.
Yeah.
But it puts you in a vibrational state that where your body, mind, and spirit can heal more easily, can integrate more easily. I use other kinds of energy medicine like EFT and vagus nerve regulation techniques, singing, toning, healing through sound, and other forms of sort of nonverbal expression. But it's all to kind of raise that vibrational state, and that's fun and play and joy, does that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Love that. I was gonna
yeah.
say, yeah, I'm definitely on the same page. It's funny when every time we would go on vacation, I would always ask my mom, can we go do like a dolphin sighting or whatever?
Yeah.
And the most of the time it wasn't around the season or whatever. So,
Oh.
but we would always go on the boat.
Hmm.
And my mom would always call me like the animal whisperer because we would always see a dolphin.
Oh.
And now that you said about they pick people, it was, I was like, oh, so they picked me. And they were so like, the people that were like doing the tours were like, wow, we haven't seen one in months. And then my mom was like, oh, it's probably because my daughter,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. It's funny. I don't know. Most people don't know this about me, but I actually wanted to go be a dolphin trainer,
Okay.
be like to like I forget what they called it. It was something with research. I wanted to do
Hmm.
something with dolphin research, and
Hmm.
I just never did it. Like I never went through with it, but it
Yeah.
makes so much sense because a lot of my own personal healing.
Mm-hmm.
Like my spirit animal was always a dolphin normally,
Mm-hmm.
and at the ocean, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, that sound healing. I feel like I use that with my clients and myself
Yeah.
all the time, because
Yeah.
I think it's very, now if I can go go find a dolphin, that'll be even
Yeah.
more healing. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And
tell us a little bit
you're
about your,
sending, oh, go ahead. I
yeah,
was just gonna say, you're sending them telepathic messages saying, I'm coming, I want to see you, please
yeah,
come.
yeah,
And then they do,
yeah,
it's animal
yeah.
communication 101.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I do know that I do have, just like, there's just different, I practiced a little bit with it, but I know that I have that animal communication, because there was a deer. It was me and my daughter walking in the house one night, and there was a deer standing outside. And I know that deer, like most people, would be scared of them.
Hmm.
Usually they're scared of you, most
Hmm.
of the time, but it just sat there.
Hmm.
And it was I think it was a time of when I was going through my divorce, and he was just
Hmm.
watching us. And I just said to myself, wow, I wonder if he's protecting us, watching
Hmm.
us walk inside. And all I heard and was like, yes, I'm watching. I was
See, yeah, you heard it.
like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my daughter says, what, mommy? I'm like, nothing. Nothing. Let's go inside. But it was just funny how that happened, because I would just say, I mean, it's with anything. It's with
Yeah.
dogs. It's with, I will just say, I think your dog's sad, or, I think your
Mm.
dog needs love or whatever. And it's like, how do you know? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't
Well,
really,
and
I don't,
yeah, anybody can actually communicate with animals.
yeah.
It really is a skill we can all build. Some people,
Yeah.
it never left them in childhood because all children can kind of communicate
Oh, yeah.
telepathically like
Yeah.
animals. And we've just sort of beat it out of them. It's, oh, you don't know what they're saying, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not hard to learn. It's really about trusting your intuition. And so
Yeah.
again, or trusting that connection and learning how to connect sort of at a quantum level with the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
And anybody can learn it, and I just finally I was like, I am hearing these things, and it is not me, because doesn't even make sense that I would say it in this
Yeah.
way, and the way
Yeah.
it comes. I was just like, okay. And then I had to learn about it. And it came out of a cycle of grieving over a lost pet. And it was like kabang. Then I have dolphins and whales talking to me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is. And every time I go out, I practice. And even when I'm not in the water, I'm able to communicate. But when I go out, I'll ask for certain things, and then I'll get it, and I'm like, this is not. It can't be random. It's too
Yeah.
consistent. So
Yeah.
that happened the other day. I was swimming with whales, and I asked them for four things, and I got all four things. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so it just keeps reinforcing and reinforcing it, that is really, we are so connected. And it
Yeah.
really brings up natural joy, to have this sort of connection with life and with nature and the universe in this way. And that kind of groundedness, so it's a real grounded kind of joy that you
Yeah.
belong here, that you belong here and you're
Yeah.
wanted and you're needed. And it's fun. So
Yeah.
it's like I could talk to animals, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a form of play, and I say playing every day keeps the doctor away, and it's a lot more fun than an apple even. And it helps relationships and families, and they come out on these trips and they have troubles and they bond. I mean, playing is super, super bonding. So the dolphins show us that some people don't get in the water. They can bond with dolphins because they're looking straight down at them, and they roll over and they look at you with their eye. I mean, they're doing that on purpose. So people don't have to get in the water. You've had these experiences with them coming up to you on a boat. And I
Mhm.
mean, how do you feel when that happens?
Like, yeah, I just, the one word that's coming up is like, I was happy, like
Hmm.
I felt very special, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? On your boat full of tourists, but
And
they
they're just
connect
coming
with
to
you.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
And
a
they,
couple kids on the boat that they only went to the kids, and
yeah,
uh the tour guy was like, oh, I love kids,
they love
and I think
kids.
it's because at that time I probably, not knowing what they told me, I was born with my gifts. And I always tell people, people always say, oh, well, some people like wake up later in life. And I was like,
Hmm.
well, that's true, but you had these gifts when you were
Yeah.
born.
Yeah.
I just kept
Hmm.
mine for, like, I
Hmm.
just kind of, when other people would make fun of me, or my parents would be like, oh, that's crazy, or this and that, you know,
Yeah.
after my grandmother passed away, like I would talk to her about it because
Yeah.
she was open about it. But
Hmm.
other than that, I kind of just kept it to myself, but
Oh, okay.
always, and then I just kind of after my, spiritual awakening when I was older,
Mm-hmm.
I always knew that I had that ability. So,
Yeah.
probably the other kids, if I don't remember exactly, but they probably were talking telepathically to them,
Yeah.
while the adults were like, oh,
Yeah.
it's because you're kids. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh.
No, and they do love
Yeah.
kids, and I think they love them too because they know kids are better at being players, and
Yeah.
they have that
Yeah.
essence of playfulness and joy and openness,
Yes.
and so it helps us be that way again and brings us back to really our essence, and that's sort of, the play shops I do, the retreats, it's trying to bring you back to your essence and then help you take that back into your daily life. We're not all going to swim and play with dolphins every day, but it's like, how do we bring that
Yeah.
body memory back into your regular life, so that you can shift some things and, bring that self-awareness, that self-healing. And it just, we need to be in a relaxed state to initiate the healing process. We don't heal when we're stressed and tense. We can't, it's not physiologically possible. You have to create that space for it, and I like to say I co-create this with the dolphins because it's really on their terms. And, we set intentions and we do it way before we even get to the location in terms of kind of setting that connection with them and, trying to teach people how to do that. And it just makes it a lot more fun, and to see things happen out there. And, you can move away from everybody and kind of ask the dolphins, and then I'll start to hear them go here, go there, back up, come here. And I was like, okay, just
Yeah.
follow what they tell me. And
Yeah.
that's been really fun. That's been a new development for me after all these years. I was, again,
Amazing.
kind of left brain oriented from all my training, but I was also
Yeah.
very open. So these things were coming and I was helping other people. And then I was like, it is about, bringing that joy back to the life of everyone, and that how much it helps the planet. Part of what I do is give back some of the profits to true whale and dolphin sanctuaries that are really taking formerly captive cetaceans out of captivity and rehabilitating, retiring them, or releasing them. So those are existing around the world or in development. And I want our retreats. I'm not going to give people presents and all this silly stuff that people are doing at retreats anymore. It's like,
Right.
no, I'm going to use that money and give it. And we're going to decide as a group which sanctuary to give it to, because we're going to give
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
and we're going to try to get these animals out of the captivity industry. And so it's really, for me, it has to be a full circle. It's not, it has to be a way to give back.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that because there is these, I think it was on social media, where you buy the beaded bracelets and you can adopt a dolphin but you
Mm-hmm.
can track them to, like, I mean, I don't know if you can really track them, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
a certain dolphin to, I actually
Yeah.
literally just did that last week. So
Yeah.
I've always gave back to like Save the Ocean, or
Right.
I thought it was interesting. I was like, oh, I can have like my own little dolphin friend
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
save like a dolphin. So that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And
So the
there's,
other
there's
question
research. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there's some research projects out there where you can adopt a dolphin, and they've photo identified specific dolphins, but it supports
Oh,
the
okay.
research, and as well as supporting like sanctuaries and stuff, and
Oh,
so
okay.
it's, you can adopt some of the dolphins that they have had in the sanctuary or the whale. So yeah, absolutely. Those are great things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, at some point in my journey, I wanted to be a dolphin researcher. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah. And
makes
me,
sense.
and me
Probably
too.
that.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
do in sort of my off time is I go support by volunteering, research organizations or
Yeah.
advocacy organizations. I've either worked as a naturalist or volunteered, to help in some way, and
Yeah.
it just gives me more time out there with them, and so
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was my
I think the
that's sort of my
closest,
second, yeah.
my closest one in the States is, I think, Florida. So I
Hmm.
think that was my hesitant. I'm like, I don't want to move away from my family. And I think this was around like when I was a teenager. And then I realized, oh, I could move away. Like, I'm okay. And then my
Yeah,
life took a different turn.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I
Mine
love
did
that. But
too.
I,
Yeah,
I do love that I can give back to it, regardless of whatever I did do every year. I always give back to like the ocean. Not that I have millions of dollars, but if I
right.
did, I would give it to save the ocean and all
Oh.
that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super important. Yeah. And that's part
yeah,
of our, connection, with
yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
Yes. Because I feel like that, where it's back home to me is, at some point I knew I was like a mermaid in one of my past
Mm-hmm.
lives. And I felt like that's my home. I feel at
Yeah.
home when I'm at
Yeah.
the ocean and, at
Yeah.
the beach and stuff and swimming, and like it's very healing and water and all that stuff. So I feel like, why don't you want to save your home? That kind of thing.
Right. Oh my
Why are
gosh, we're
you,
such mermaid sisters because that's
yeah,
exactly it. I mean, I
yeah,
literally, every time I
you're
come
killing
to
my
one of
home.
these, yeah, I
Yeah,
come and I start crying because I feel like I'm home. I'm
yeah,
in the water, I'm home. So I'm
yeah.
I'm kind of expecting my tail to come in any day, just grow, like the Little Mermaid. And I have a real tail and everything that I put on and I play in the ocean with it and stuff. It's
Oh.
really fun. So you got to get one of those. It's really fun.
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah, one of my friends and clients, she had sent me a video of her swimming in the lake, and she's like, "I have my mermaid tail," and I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, one of those.
there are
You look
huge
like a real
mermaids.
one."
Yeah, there's huge mermaid societies all over now. It's just a really
Yeah,
big thing. And
yeah,
there are a lot of people who, were, probably were from the ocean, right? Some of us were dolphins in a past life. So
yeah,
I feel very, I have mermaid jewelry on right now. I've got whales everywhere all over me. So it's
yeah,
just like that connection to keeping me really close, to where my home is. And there's
yeah,
just something in my body that just says, oh, you're home now. You're in the water. Like
yeah,
the deeper some people are afraid by deep water. I'm like, no, I'm going down. Bye.
yeah,
So it's just,
yeah.
yeah, it's a very strong connection. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say the only time that I remember I was scared of the deep end is when it was a past life thing, and I had
Mm,
drowned in like one of
yeah.
my past lives. So, and it must have been in the ocean or something.
Hmm.
So, because I would always be like, there's a shark gonna come up. I would always tell my mom,
Mm,
like I would be in the deep end. She's like, come back, come in the deep end with me. And I'm like, no, 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 there's a shark gonna come through the, and she's like,
mm.
what? But I
Aw.
realized it was because I must have drowned, or a shark
Yeah.
must have ate me or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
It could have been when I was a mermaid and a shark ate me or something. I
Yeah.
don't
Or
know.
you were a fish, or
Yeah. Or
something,
something. I
or a
was
dolphin.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a dolphin. So,
Yeah.
they do have these run-ins, but, there's a lot of archetypal connection between water and fear. And a lot of it's the symbol of mother, the mother is the water and the ocean. So sometimes there's a lot of archetypal stuff around mothers, and motherhood
Yeah.
and being held, because the ocean is just basically a great big womb, and
Right.
that's where we started out. So it needs to be a place of security and feel safe. And if we didn't have some of that, either in vitro or after or whatever, it can translate to these places that feel archetypal. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting how when people are afraid of the ocean, what to kind of explore where that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never been afraid of the ocean. I would be the one that's going to go out and
Mhm.
my mom would be like, what's she doing?
Right,
Like
right.
when I was like 5 and 6 swimming on my own, like
Yeah,
it came very natural to me. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yes, I can see a couple people that I've worked with that had drowned, or they
Mhm.
are scared of water, or they don't go swimming, or they don't, and I was like, well, have you learned how to swim? And
Mhm.
it's most of the time no. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, so that's why you're afraid. How do you know you don't know how to swim? It's like, not, you don't
yeah.
normally go swimming every day. It's like walking, you have to like learn, right?
Well,
So
yeah, and I just was on a boat with someone the other day that said she's still afraid of the water, and she's in her 60s. And it was really because her parents had sort of inadvertently put that fear in there of like, don't go in there, you could drown, or watch
yeah,
out for the pool,
yeah,
or, those silly messages we got, don't go in after you've eaten, you'll drown,
yeah,
those messages. And it made
yeah,
her actually afraid of the water. And she's never really challenged the fear. And it's
mhm,
like, well, those were just stories that you were told, and you're not a child anymore, and
yeah.
yes, you can learn. And bodies are made to float, they will not
Right.
stay
Right.
under unless you open your mouth, and babies know how to close their mouths. I mean, I used to teach babies, infants, how to swim, but after 3 months, before 3 months, they automatically need to keep their mouth closed underwater. And after that time, they had to kind of learn it, but they could learn it very quickly. It was no big deal to teach an infant how to swim. So it's really part of us, and it's part of our body response. And I would say when people are afraid of the water, really explore their attachment, and their secure attachment with their,
Right.
moms or their, guardians from a young age. and see what comes up, because again, I was talking with a woman who was adopted. She had a lot of adoption trauma and she's scared to death of the water. And I was like, that's so interesting, when there's usually some sort of mother or parenting or security issue, people are generally afraid of the water. Yeah, and you have to be respectful. Certainly, it's sort of like that healthy respect, but it's very doable, and everybody is kept safe and secure, and you're pushed to your edge, and it's sort of like that cartoon about here's your comfort zone, and here's where the magic happens.
Right.
It's
Outside your
not,
comfort zone.
yeah. So it's sort of like,
That's
don't
so
come
true.
on a trip and want to stay in your comfort zone. You're not going to grow. It's not going to be fun. You really have to push through that, and it's fun and it's playful. And I love, getting people to kind of embrace that shadow and play with it, not be judgy or shaming yourself or whatever, but it's like, let's figure out what this is about. Let's be curious about it and just get in there and play with it and see what the dolphins want to send to you. And, be afraid if you want, but get in, be afraid and get support. And then, try to stay open to what the dolphins or the whales are there for. And you just sort of feel their sense of safety and belonging and calm and sweetness and love. And, that helps us feel it. And then I also tell people, there's a dark side to dolphins too. So we have to not put them on some pedestal, because they fight, they're mean to each other, they hold each other under the water, they have disciplinary techniques, they beat up other species. I mean, they can be really shadowy, right? So like humans, they have these social,
like sharks, they're not scared of sharks.
Yeah, they but they beat up like sometimes the bottlenose beat up the spotteds, like they bully them, in Bimini, you can watch a bullying situation happen, and it's like dominance and control and just mean. It just looks like the bullies on the playground kind of thing. And there's just a lot that goes on. I mean, they hold babies down if they're being bad. The moms will hold them underwater so they can't breathe, as a way of like slapping them, and and they fight with each other. They have rake marks on each other. They bite each other, and you can see that happening too. So, every social group is not all love and light, right? So they have to work out their conflicts and their problems and their likes and their dislikes. Dolphins have certain friends throughout their life cycle, and they don't like other ones, so it's very interesting to kind of watch them with an understanding eye, not just that eye where you put them on a pedestal or like as just these all elevated beings. The animal communicators that I respect and listen to really get that they don't all want to be with us. They don't all like us. They don't all like each other. So they're here having their whaley or dolphin experience as spiritual beings, and they're here to either help us or learn about their own stuff. It's not all about us. So we have a tendency to do that, but so I try to bring that piece in too. Is watch for the shadow stuff. They've got it too. And it kind of eases our own relationship with our own shadow. So we can be like, oh, they're jerks too.
Well, and it's funny. It's actually funny that you say that, because it was the question I had was about the whales. Now, with the whales, you said it's a little bit of a different experience with them. Could you kind of tell us what experience that?
Yeah, well, the dolphins, are super playful and light, and it's just their vibration and their energy. They're super fast, and they want to really engage with that fast play and stuff when they're not sleeping. But when you're with whales, you'll see that amongst the babies, the calves, that they're much more playful and curious and kind of clumsy and awkward. But the adults, they're kind of like the elephants on land, right? They have that slow kind of high, big energy. I mean, the vibration. There was one time I was in the water in Hawaii, and I felt this vibration, and I was sure there was like a boat right next to me that didn't see me. So I was picking my head up going, oh my God, where's the boat? And there was nothing. And there was a whale near me. I didn't see it, but I could feel it. I could see it far, but I could feel that vibration of it in the water, because they're so big, and there's just such an energy to them that's vastly different than a dolphin. And the gray whales in Baja, where I take people, they're coming up to these little pangas, maybe a 20-foot little fishing boat, and they're 50 feet, the moms, 40 to 50 feet. And they're bringing their babies who are as long or longer than the boat. And they're pushing them up into your face because they want to be petted and kissed and loved on and connect with you in a way that in no other place in the world they do this. And it came out of this whole long story of, this was where they were also whaled in these exact bays, and their babies were killed. And now they're bringing their babies to be kissed. So it's sort of like this whole story of forgiveness and redemption, and them seeing us as worthy to bring their babies to us and push them up into our faces, and it's a miracle place. I mean, I've done a lot with dolphins and whales. It's all miraculous, but this is, and I have a retreat coming up next February there again, and I can't wait to get back because it really is a miraculous place, and
We just have to come to that one.
yeah, it's
Making
remarkable.
my birthday present to myself next
Oh
year.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody knows about this place, but every time I talk to people, like, I've never heard of that. I was like, there's only these 3 lagoons in the entire world where whales have initiated contact with humans, and there's absolutely no evolutionary gain for them. They're not fed. There's nothing to eat there. They initiated contact with humans 40 years after we had stopped killing them in those same lagoons, which means there are whales still alive that remember those times. And the fishermen were afraid of them. They're called the devilfish because they used to kill the whalers, and so they didn't want to touch them. They were scared. And somebody egged somebody on, and the next thing you know, they're coming to the fishermen's boats, and it's very highly regulated. It's very respectful. And that's what I like about the particular lagoon I go to. Climate change is putting that population under a lot of stress right now. There's less of them now. And they're, not there as long and stuff. So that's why I'm really like, I got to get back out there. We got to, really have this experience, because you will protect these animals, after you've had this kind of connection. You don't want them to starve to death on the way back to their feeding grounds, and so, but it's just a special place. They don't do this anywhere else. And their energy is huge. I mean, it's just huge. So yeah, it's a different energy. You got to experience both. It's really different and special.
I love that you said about the forgiveness, and it's just interesting to me because, often us humans forget about like forgiving ourselves. And if, if whales can forgive humans for killing them, why can't we forgive ourselves or forgive other species for whatever, like it's
exactly.
like I feel like the animals, especially like, the free, what reminds me of like Free Willy, and it's like that, they're called like the killer whales and all that stuff. It's like they don't kill humans. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, when they probably
that's not
should.
somebody we probably don't taste too well. Like,
it's not that. It's just, they're really effective killers, is what it is. But there's never been documented cases of them hurting a human in the wild, even when the humans have done really stupid, horrible, heinous crimes against them. Even when they're being pulled out, for captivity, they could easily chomp the people, but they don't. And, especially when they're going for the calves. So it's remarkable, the restraint, and there's a lot of interesting things happening, and people ascribe all kinds of things to the orca that are just not true. But it's, if you tune in and communicate with them, they are trying to get our attention and tell us things. And, and that some of them are dying out because of it, because we're not listening. But there is this, I had an experience on my last dolphin trip, communications from the dolphins and these gray whales and my dog, because I had all this guilt and grief and stuff. And again, it was that exact message that you said. The gray whales came and said, look, if we could forgive you for killing us nearly to extinction twice, why can't you forgive yourself for this? And that's the whole magic of that place, is this redemption story. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm like, bring the shadow, and let's unravel it and let nature. I mean, I always say nature provides you with every metaphor you ever need in life to help you self-heal. We're programmed to self-heal. So it's really important that we create the space for that. And nature is the best space, I think, to facilitate that kind of self-healing, and that kind of play and that kind of joy. And it really helps our relationships. I mean, I've seen, families really bond and play, I'd say, people who play together stay together. And it creates that bonding in our nervous system. We have different nervous system changes, and it supports us through hard times when we have that kind of bonding. And we want to keep our playmates around,
Right.
So it really creates that space for that. And, I have a dolphin meditation from my mentor, who she's gifted that to me. And I'd be happy to gift that to your listeners. And, if they sign up for my like once in a while newsletter, when I send out information about emotional intelligence, or my play shops, or my retreats, I have a set of play shops coming up on March 24th, that you can attend one or all three of them. But it's really to try to, it's almost like a precursor to the retreat. So if you come to the play shops, you get your money back for that toward the next retreat. So it's awesome. Trying to get people in that idea of, how do I incorporate play into my life, and how can it actually help me with healing, with shifting things. And I love that story that you said about, well, what does that look like? What does fun look like for you? What does playing look like? And because I always work with my players, and I say, there's a story about a race car driver, and he was being interviewed, and the interviewer was like, okay, you're going 200 miles an hour, there's a wall in front of you, what do you do? And the driver said, you look where you want to go. Okay, if you look at the wall, you're going to hit the wall. If you look where you want to go, your body, your unconscious, everything kind of moves you in that direction. And I love that metaphor and that analogy. It's like, you've got to look at where you're going. Where do you want to go? And keep that focus, and I work with people to live through their values, and their authentic selves, so that if those things are in alignment, we feel secure and grounded and more able to be in our essence and be playful, versus trying to force our way through this misfit path, where we just feel like misfits. And we're not living in alignment with our values. Women in particular have really a lot of trouble saying no to things, or knowing their true self, or what they really want. And so, I work with a lot of that, and particularly people who have been traumatized or wounded, really struggle with, who am I? What do I belong here? And how do I get that sense again? So I love that work. I love it. And I just find the dolphins and whales, because I want to follow them around, is a way to bring that up for people.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of that. So how can somebody get in contact with you? And I'll make sure also they have your links. And if they want to connect with you for a retreat, do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website. It's yourlifewelllived.net. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and those things, although I try to eschew social media as much as possible. And then, of course, I send out a newsletter every so often, with articles about emotional intelligence and the play shops and the retreats, like I said. So yeah, I have something coming up soon. So I'll provide a link for that, and a link for my other things where they can connect with me. But yeah,
I'll make sure I put that all in the description box. So go check. I know I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be tracking you to see. I'm like, I'm gonna do this retreat.
Yeah. Well, and these places fill up a year in advance. So I start announcing it a year in advance, because they're really in demand. And this whale one here, I'm pretty excited about, but I can't wait to get back to the gray whales. And then, I'm looking at a place with dolphins in Mozambique, and Bimini is a place which is right off, Florida, which is easy to get to. So I just, it's just like, just find places around the world and follow them around. So
right, you can just follow them at like Bali maybe, or Costa Rica, or anything.
Oh, all kinds of places I've got on my list. For going. So so but it's great. I would love to have you along. It'd be really fun, especially because you already have this connection. I can't believe you haven't done it yet.
I know. I mean, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, gosh, I want to do it like next week now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Takes
Well,
a little
thank you so
planning.
much for joining us on
Yeah.
today's episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you
Thank
enjoyed
you.
today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave a review and then share with somebody that you feel that would want to go on these retreats or gain knowledge from just listening to Jeanne. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you resonate with this conversation and found it insightful, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. Stay connected with us on social media and let's continue this conversation. Let's manifest greatness in our lives. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.